Yesterday morning, my son Ryan phoned me, his tone shaking with alarm. "Mom, why are all the cards rejected? My mother-in-law and I couldn't cover lunch at the diner. Folks are chuckling at us." His distress brought me a fulfillment I never expected to feel for my own kid. But to grasp why I arrived at this stage, I must share what occurred the night prior when my daughter-in-law, Dana, chose to embarrass me before the entire household. I'm 68 years old, and for the past several years, since I lost my spouse, I've served as the private bank for my son and his partner. Every desire, every urge, every unneeded cost drew from my reserves. But yesterday, as I poured coffee in my own house, Dana glanced at her pals who had dropped by and dropped the remark that would alter everything permanently. "That elderly lady is merely useful for settling our expenses." My son Ryan, rather than shielding me, erupted in laughter like he'd caught the most amusing gag ever. I remained there, coffee pot in grip, observing them ridicule me in my personal lounge. My fingers shook, but not due to sorrow. They shook with an icy fury I had never known previously, because in that instant I realized something I had refused for years. To them I wasn't a parent, I wasn't an in-law, I wasn't even an individual, I was simply a fund source with limbs. For a decade, I served as their monetary rescue. When Ryan dropped his position, I covered his lease for 8 months. $800 monthly that emerged from my retirement without him bothering to seek actual employment. When Dana wished to update her full closet since she required a polished appearance, it was $300 on my charge account. When they planned a getaway to Hawaii because they merited it after such tension, another $500 vanished from my funds. They never brought me along on those trips. Naturally, I was suitable to fund but not join them. "It's a couple's journey, Mom," Ryan would say whenever I suggested I'd enjoy viewing the sea. "You get it, correct?" And I, like the simpleton I had been for years, always got it, always covered, always stayed silent while they enjoyed the existence I supported. The final trigger arrived 3 months back when Dana resolved she required a fresh vehicle. "The current one is growing outdated, Georgia," she said in that sugary tone she employed when seeking something pricey. "Plus, if we're planning children soon, we want something more secure. $15,000 initial payment. $15,000 that equaled 2 years of my reserves, but I covered it as usual since it was for the household's benefit. But yesterday, after listening to those poisonous remarks, after watching my own son chuckle at me, something in my soul shifted permanently. That evening I couldn't rest, not from grief, but from a sharpness that seared within me. I rose at 3 a.m., switched on my laptop, and started taking the steps I ought to have taken long ago. First, I revoked all the extra cards they held under my name. Every one of the 5 cards they treated as theirs. Then I shut the joint reserve account, where I added funds monthly for crises that were never true crises, but instead costly meals out and brand name attire. I further updated all the codes to my banking profiles and eliminated their names from my recurring payments. At 6 a.m., when I finished, I made myself a coffee and settled in my preferred chair. For the initial time in years, I sensed calm. I knew that shortly my phone would buzz, and on the line would be my frantic, shamed son needing a reason, and I would be prepared to provide one. The phone buzzed at precisely 9:15 a.m. I was in my kitchen savoring my second coffee of the day when I spotted Ryan's name on the display. I didn't respond right away. I allowed it to ring 3 additional times while I relished a sense of control I hadn't known in ages. When I eventually answered, his tone was frantic, nearly unhinged. "Mom, why are all the cards rejected?" I'm at the Crest View Grill with Dana's mom, We planned to eat lunch and mark her birthday, but none of the cards function. It's mortifying. Folks are gazing at us. The server is growing restless, and I lack sufficient cash for $200 tab. What's happening? The twist was delightful. They had picked the Crestview Grill, the priciest spot in town, to wow Dana's mom, the identical venue I was never asked to, despite funding household meals there for years when they attended. Without me, now they were there, amid the elite crowd they yearned to impress, and they couldn't even settle for one plate. "Good morning, Ryan," I answered with a steadiness that amazed even me. "The cards are revoked because I've chosen I'm done supporting your way of life." "What, are you insane? We're in public. Dana's mom is present. How am I meant to clarify that my own parent abandoned me?" "This is absurd. What's absurd, son, was hearing you chuckle yesterday when your spouse claimed I was merely useful for settling your expenses. What's absurd is recognizing that for a decade I've been handled like a cash machine rather than your parent." There was an extended quiet on the line. I could detect chatter in the rear, likely Dana and her mom pondering what was occurring. The server must have been awaiting payment, and other guests were probably beginning to spot the uneasy scene. "Mom, please avoid this now. We can discuss later, but I require you to restore the cards. Just for today, I swear." I stopped him. "No further vows, Ryan, no further. Just for today. For a decade, I've listened to identical vows. For a decade, I've been your simple fix for all issues, but yesterday I discovered something vital. You don't honor me, you don't appreciate me, and you surely don't care for me the way I cared for you." "That's untrue. Naturally, we care for you. Dana was merely teasing. You know her style. I know precisely her style, Ryan. And I know precisely your style. That's why I took this step. I could sense him inhaling deeply. I pictured the scene at the diner growing tenser each moment. His mother-in-law had likely spotted an issue, that the premium card he used to flaunt wasn't operating. "Mom, please, we can't remain here. What do you expect us to do? Clean plates? Should we summon authorities?" "This is a disgrace. Now you understand how I felt for years," I answered. "The distinction is you're 35 years old and ought to handle your own troubles." "Are you ill? Are you all right? This isn't you, Mom. You've never been this harsh." Harsh, that term struck me like a blow. I was harsh after years of giving up, of denying myself items. I aimed to provide them all they requested after laboring until 65, to guarantee they had a solid legacy after being solitary every holiday, while they journeyed with my monetary presence. Harsh was chuckling at me yesterday. I stated with a chill I didn't realize I had. Harsh was regarding me as unseen for years, except when you required funds. Harsh was causing me to sense my soul worth as a parent and individual was my funds. Mom, Dana didn't intend it that way. Dana expressed precisely her thoughts, and you concurred with her. You both clarified my role in your lives. I detected louder chatter in the rear. Dana inquiring what was occurring, her mom offering remarks I couldn't fully hear, but that seemed irritated. The server had probably delivered the bill and was lingering with that strained patience they apply when they sense trouble. "Look, Mom, I realize you're distressed, but this isn't the method to address it. We can gather and converse like grown-ups, but currently I require your aid. Just this once more, and then we can adjust things. Just this once more." I chuckled, and my chuckle sounded odd, sour. "Do you realize how often I've heard that line? Do you realize how many final times I've supported over the past decade?" "But Mom, no, Ryan, not now. Now you're going to need another answer. You hold jobs, you hold pals, you hold relatives. Resolve it. How are we going to clarify to Dana's mom that my own parent ditched us in a diner? How am I going to confront the folks who know us? Everyone will discuss this, and there it was, the bare fact. He wasn't concerned about mending our bond. He wasn't pondering how they had handled me. He solely cared about his status, his standing, what others would say, just as always. That's your issue to address, son. For years, I fretted about your status, your ease, your joy. Now, it's my turn to fret about mine. You can't act this way. You're my parent, precisely. I'm your parent, not your worker. I'm your parent, not your private fund. I'm your parent, not your monetary support. And as your parent, I ought to have shown you long ago how to manage independently. There was another lengthier quiet. This time I sensed his distress via the phone. He was likely running mental sums, pondering whom he could contact, how he could escape this without fully losing dignity. Mom, please, Dana is weeping. Her mom is questioning what sort of household we are. The server has queried us thrice if all is fine. Please show kindness, another term that caused me to quiver. Where was their kindness when I stayed awake late figuring how to meet their costs atop my own? Where was their empathy when I skipped purchasing fresh attire so I could provide them funds for their desires? Kindness is gained over years, Ryan, and you both forfeited it yesterday. I ended the call. My fingers quivered slightly, but not from dread or grief. They quivered with excitement, with a control I hadn't known in ages. For the initial time in years, I had placed my own requirements first. For the initial time in years, I had refused. For the following half hour, the phone kept buzzing. First, Ryan once more. Then Dana, then an unfamiliar number, which I figured was Dana's mom. Every call I ignored granted me greater resolve, greater assurance that I was correct. I made another coffee and settled on my patio, relishing the quiet I had longed for. But the peace didn't endure. At 11 a.m., I caught the clear noise of Ryan's vehicle entering my driveway, the vehicle I had assisted funding, naturally. 2 doors shut firmly, and I detected rushed steps toward my entrance. The pounding began right away, strong and persistent. Mom, open up. We must converse. Ryan's tone sounded altered now, more frantic, but also more hostile. I realize you're inside. Your vehicle is here. I stayed still. I stayed on my rear patio, hidden from the front, observing the birds at the feeder I had set up last year. It was amusing how minor joys gained fresh significance when you at last had the serenity to appreciate them. Georgia, now Dana's tone, keen and insistent. We realize you're there. Quit behaving childishly and emerge to confront us. Confront them as though I were the one at fault, as though I were the one needing to justify after years of monetary and emotional mistreatment. The twist was so ridiculous it nearly caused me to chuckle. The pounding grew stronger. I could tell they were kicking now, not merely using hands. My entrance, the oak one my late partner had placed with such attention, was being hammered as if it led to a noisy club. This is ludicrous, Dana yelled. You caused us to appear like paupers before all. Ryan's mother-in-law had to settle our meal. A 70-year-old lady had to pull cash from her bag because her son's spouse is unstable. Ah, so that's what transpired. Dana's mom had to save them. I imagined the moment, Ryan perspiring heavily as he attempted to justify why none of his cards operated. Dana inventing weak alibis, and ultimately the senior lady saving the moment. The shame must have been intense. Mom, please. Ryan seemed near weeping. Folks are already chatting. All at the diner were staring. Some even pulled phones. This will spread on social platforms. Social platforms, naturally. That was their main worry. Not that they had wounded their parent, not acknowledging they had overstepped. They solely cared about their online image, their standing in those circles where they adored flaunting the existence I supported. The pounding paused briefly, but I could detect their tones quarreling in angry murmurs. They were likely plotting their next tactic. I knew Dana sufficiently to know she held a complete set of emotional tricks, and Ryan had mastered well from her over time. Georgia, Dana's tone shifted entirely. Now it seemed gentle, nearly kind. I realize you're distressed, and you deserve to be. Perhaps what I stated yesterday came out wrong, but you know I didn't intend it. I was merely bantering with pals. You know how females are when together. Sometimes we speak without considering. It was intriguing to hear how she could alter her character in moments. From the angry lady who had yelled and kicked my entrance, she had transformed into the compassionate in-law who had merely committed a minor speaking mistake. Mom, now Ryan adopted the soft tone, I get we wounded you. Dana clarified yesterday, and you're correct to be distressed. But revoking the cards resolves nothing. It merely worsens for all, not for me, naturally. For them, for their ease, for their existence. My emotional health was still absent from the picture. Please, Mom, we can resolve this. We can adjust. Ryan's tone cracked slightly, but I require you to restore the cards today. I face bills due. The vehicle coverage is due tomorrow, and Dana faces medical visits this week. We can't be left penniless suddenly. Penniless as if it were theirs, as if I were accountable for their coverage, their appointments, their costs as self-sufficient grow. Nups. In that instant, I grasped with total clarity that they really didn't distinguish between my funds and theirs. In their view, my reserves were a household asset, not the outcome of decades of effort and giving from a lady who had already met her obligations in life. Georgia, please consider your actions. Dana had altered tactics again. Now her tone seemed worried, nearly parental. What will folks think if they learn you severed your own son? What will they say at worship? What will relatives think? Worship relatives, it was ever the same with her, employing my standing, my ties, my image as emotional pressure. As if my value as an individual hinged on others' views, as if my self-worth mattered less than opinions of those who likely didn't know how they treated me privately. Look, Mom, Ryan had taken a graver, more grown tone. Now, I get you want us to adjust some aspects. We can discuss limits about better handling household funds, but this isn't the path. This is emotional pressure. Emotional pressure. The terms rang in my mind like a strike. I was emotionally pressuring after years of quiet coercion, of being guilted each time I paused to provide funds, of them using my parental affection to drain my accounts. The mirroring was so clear it nearly caused me to chuckle. The pounding resumed, but now slower, less forceful. They were seeing the strong approach wasn't succeeding. I could detect them shifting from the entrance, likely circling the house to check if they could see me via a pane. Georgia, Dana shouted from what seemed my side pane. We spotted your silhouette. We know you're inside. Quit cowering like a weakling. Weakling. There was the true Dana again, the one who appeared when sweet tricks failed. The lady who had labeled me that elderly lady the prior day, who had made my kindness a basis for scorn, who had taught my son to view me as an asset rather than an individual. I rose from my seat and moved gradually to the pane where she had called. I drew the drape just sufficient for her to view me, and our gazes locked through the pane. Her face shifted instantly from anger to ease, then to that false grin I knew well. There you are, she cried as if locating a missing kid. Come on, let's unlock the entrance and converse like relatives. I stared her in the eyes for a prolonged moment, sensing an odd peace. Then, quite gradually, I shut the drape again. I detected her cry of annoyance, followed by further thumping on the pane, but this time I didn't react. I returned to my patio and settled once more. The phone started buzzing right away, but I muted it. For the initial time in years, my house was genuinely mine. The yelling and thumping persisted for another hour, but they slowly weakened. From my rear patio, I could catch pieces of their annoyed talks, their frantic schemes to sway me. Dana proposed summoning a locksmith to break the entrance, but Ryan noted that would be unlawful entry. Even in distress, they avoided true legal risks. Finally, I detected the vehicle doors shut firmly and the motor pull away. But I knew this was nowhere near finished. I knew Dana sufficiently to know she was plotting her next action. Likely something more detailed and emotional. I wasn't mistaken. At 3 p.m., my phone began buzzing with unknown numbers. First, Dana's mom, her tone courteous but steady. "Georgia, dear, I believe there's a mix-up. Dana shared what occurred, and I'm certain we can settle this like polite grown-ups." I ended without speaking. Then it was my sibling Elaine, who resides in another state, and had clearly gotten a much altered account of events. "Georgia, Ryan phoned me quite concerned. He claims you're behaving oddly, and that you abandoned them at a diner." "Are you fine? Are you unwell?" "I'm entirely fine, Elaine," I answered. "Better than ever, actually, but I don't grasp." "Ryan claims you revoked all their cards without notice. That doesn't seem like the Georgia I know. You've always been so giving with relatives." Perhaps that was the issue. I stated perhaps I was overly giving for too long. "But Georgia, they're your relatives." "Dana claims you're penalizing them for a harmless tease." "Certainly you can gather and resolve this." A harmless tease. It was remarkable how Dana had managed to reshape events in mere hours. What had been a harsh shame before visitors had become a harmless tease that I had misread due to oversensitivity. "Elaine, have you ever sensed like a cash machine for your children?" I inquired straight. "What? No. Why inquire?" "Because that's precisely what I am to Ryan and Dana, and yesterday I at last saw it. Georgia, you're overstating." Parents always aid their offspring. It's standard. Is it standard to settle your grown son's lease for years? Is it standard to support their getaways while you remain home solitary? Is it standard for them to ridicule you for being giving? Elaine paused for a moment. "Well, perhaps they've exploited your giving somewhat, but severing all at once seems extreme." "You know what's extreme, Elaine, laboring until 65 to ensure a solid legacy for your son, only to discover he's already using it while you're alive." After that talk, I chose to disconnect the house phone. I set my mobile on airplane setting. I required quiet to handle all I was sensing, to outline my future moves. That night, as I readied supper for myself for the initial time in months without the worry of awaiting calls demanding funds, I grasped something vital. I didn't sense remorse. My entire life, I had been taught to sense remorse when I didn't fulfill others' needs, particularly relatives. But this time, that known remorse wasn't present. Instead, I sensed something I hadn't known in years. Mental sharpness. It was as though I had lived in an emotional haze and could at last view clearly. Every choice I had taken in the past decade flashed in my mind like a film, and I could spot patterns I had avoided acknowledging earlier. The pattern was ever identical. Ryan or Dana would come with a short-term monetary issue I would first oppose. They would use emotional force. "It's merely this once. We're in need. What will others think?" I would yield. They would fix their immediate issue, and weeks later a fresh short-term issue would emerge. There was never a true repayment schedule, never a sincere recognition of my giving, and surely never an ask to join in the gains of my own kindness. I funded their getaways but wasn't asked. I supported their meals at upscale spots but dined solitary at home. I handled their health costs, but no one queried my well-being. I stood and went to my office, where I stored all my monetary papers. It was time to perform the actual sums to grasp precisely how much I had expended on them over time. I retrieved my banking records from the past 5 years and began adding. The total was crushing. $86,000. $86,000 in 5 years. That didn't include earlier years when I lacked detailed logs. It exceeded half my overall retirement, more than many earn in 2 years of labor. But the deepest ache wasn't the sum. It was grasping that for those $86 zeros, zero, I had gotten scorn, apathy, and handling as a duty rather than a gift. As I examined the figures, I discovered something that caused me to shake with anger. They had used one of my cards for top, tear streaming, costly fitness clubs, and periodical subscriptions I didn't know about. Minor monthly fees that summed to hundreds yearly. Funds automatically drawn from my profile to cover luxuries I never savored. That night I took another key step. I removed my will from the cabinet and reviewed it closely. I had created that paper 5 years back when I still thought I was protecting the future of a caring and thankful household. Ryan was the only heir to all, the residence, the reserve accounts, the assets, all, but now I viewed that will differently. Why should I bequeath my full property to one who had already used over half while I lived? Why grant an inheritance to one who had handled me as an asset rather than a parent? I resolved that tomorrow I would phone my attorney to set a meeting. It was time to alter my property plans greatly. If Ryan wished to handle me like a lender, then he would settle for the gains, not the core. I retired that night with an odd but freeing sensation. For the initial time in years, I had chosen based only on my own health. For the initial time in years, I hadn't lain awake concerning other grown-ups' monetary troubles. I rested better than in months. The following day, I arose with a vigor I hadn't sensed in years. It was Friday, and for the initial time in ages, I had plans not involving fixing others' issues. First, I would phone my attorney. Then, I would visit the bank for further adjustments. And perhaps, just perhaps, I would purchase myself something pleasant with funds I usually spent on another's desires. I reconnected the house phone while preparing breakfast. As anticipated, I had 14 voicemails on the machine. I heard them while sipping coffee, and each affirmed I had chosen correctly. Voicemail 1, Dana, with a weepy tone. Georgia, it's Dana. I know you're distressed, but please consider your actions. Ryan didn't rest last night. He's deeply concerned for you. He claims he's never seen you thus. Please contact us. Voicemail 2. Ryan sounding frantic. Mom, I must speak with you. I visited the bank this morning, and they said you shut the account where you added for our crises. Why act that way? That account was for us both. It was intriguing how he kept calling my funds ours. That account had never been for both. It was my funds I added for their alleged crises, which always proved getaways, pricey attire, or eateries. Voicemail 3, Elaine once more, Georgia. Ryan phoned again. He claims you shut a reserve account too. Are you certain of your actions? Don't you feel you're overly drastic? The later voicemails matched the style. Feigned worry, doubting my sanity and requests masked as sibling guidance. But voicemail 11 drew my notice. It was from an unknown number, but the tone was known. Mrs. Whitlock, this is Oscar, Dana's cousin's spouse. Look, we don't know each other much, but Dana requested I phone you. She's quite concerned since she says you're behaving oddly. As a guy, I feel sometimes ladies overcomplicate. Why not pardon and move on? Relatives matter most. Relatives matter most. What a useful view when preserving a setup that aids them. I pondered if Oscar would pardon and move on if someone ridiculed him before his household while draining his profile. At 9 a.m. exactly, I phoned the law office where I had created my will. The assistant said Mr. Coleman had an opening and could meet me that afternoon at 2. Ideal. Then I phoned the bank and asked a slot with the supervisor to check all my profiles and add further safeguards. I also aimed to ensure Ryan had no entry to my monetary details. As I prepared to depart, the bell rang. For an instant, I figured it was Ryan and Dana once more. But peering through the hole, I saw my neighbor Lucy on the porch. Lucy was a 62-year-old lady widowed 2 years back, and we sometimes talked over the fence, I opened with curiosity. Lucy had never visited formally before. "Good morning, Georgia," she said with a friendly grin. "I hope not intruding, but I detected much noise and yelling yesterday, and I wished to confirm you're fine." I asked her in and offered coffee. It was nice to have someone in my house not seeking funds or emotional tricks. "Is all well?" she inquired with true worry. "Yesterday I observed your son and his partner here for hours yelling and thumping the entrance." I nearly phoned authorities. I shared the full tale, not private parts, but sufficient for her to comprehend. Lucy heard without cutting in, sometimes nodding with comprehension. "Georgia," she said when I ended, "I must admit something. For years I've observed how they handle you when visiting. I've seen them arrive in fresh vehicles, in costly outfits, speaking on newest devices. Meanwhile, you drive the same vehicle from a decade back and buy at bargain shops." Her terms struck because it was outside proof of what I had denied inside. Others could spot the clear that I had ignored, but what struck me most, Lucy went on, is I've never seen them aid you. I've never seen them assist with bags, repair house items, or merely visit without seeking something. "Is it that clear?" I inquired, sensing shame and ease mixed. To an outsider, yes, but I grasp why you missed it. "When you're a parent, you wish to see the best in offspring." Lucy remained another hour, and our talk was the most open and freeing I'd had in months. She shared her experiences with grown children, expecting her to fix all issues, and how she learned limits after widowhood. "You know what aided me most," she said before departing. "Realizing good parenting doesn't mean self-denial. You can care for offspring without losing yourself, worth for them." Her terms echoed in my thoughts en route to the bank. In the supervisor's office, we checked all profiles and added fresh safeguards. I updated all codes, included two-step verification, and ensured only I accessed monetary details. "Mrs. Whitlock," the supervisor said as he handled updates, "may I inquire why these major shifts? Any particular safety worries?" "Let's say I at last see my greatest monetary threat resides in my relatives," I answered. The supervisor nodded knowingly. "It's more usual than you imagine, ma'am. We encounter many older grown-ups exploited monetarily by kin. You acted wisely safeguarding yourself. After the bank, I dined alone at a modest, warm spot I had longed to try, but never permitted the treat. I chose the costliest item, a wine-glass and sweet. The tab was $1.45, below what Ryan and Dana used on one drink round during outings. As I enjoyed my meal, I grasped something key. It had been years since savoring food without ongoing worry of tallying costs, how much to reserve for Ryan's next crisis, or if I could manage this minor self-treat. For the initial time in years, I ate with real hunger and pleasure. The meeting with Mr. Coleman, the attorney, was eye-opening beyond expectation. When I detailed the case and wished to alter my will, he showed no shock. Actually, he said such cases were more common than I thought. "Mrs. Whitlock," he said, reviewing my will, "I see we created this 5 years back. Then you named your full property to your son, Ryan. Are you certain of major shifts?" "Completely certain," I answered. "Over these 5 years, I've seen my son's real nature. He has shown he doesn't prize my kindness, and honestly, he has spent over half his legacy while I live." The attorney noted as I outlined the $86,000 documented, excluding prior years. His brows lifted slightly at the number. "I grasp your stance," he said. "What shifts do you consider? I wish to split my property, a share for aid groups that really assist those in need, not whimsical grown-ups. Another share for my sibling Elaine, who has always been self-reliant and never requested anything. And for Ryan," I halted. "For Ryan, sufficient to indicate I haven't cut him from spite, but not sufficient for ongoing life without effort." Thinking of a certain ratio, 50% for aid, 30% for my sibling, and 20% for Ryan, with the rule he receives his only if proving a full year of total monetary self-reliance. The attorney grinned slightly. That final rule is clever and fully valid. You're motivating personal accountability. I departed the office sensing deep contentment. For the initial time in years, I had chosen my future reflecting true principles, not fears or parental remorse. When home, an unknown vehicle was in my driveway, and senior lady, smartly attired, stood on my porch. It was Dana's mom, Claudia. "Georgia," she said with a strained grin when I arrived, "good you're here." "We need a lady-to-lady discussion." I asked her in, more from interest than courtesy. I wished to hear what account this lady had heard. "Look, dear," Claudia started once seated, "I know a mix-up yesterday between you and the young ones. Dana shared all, and honestly, I feel you're overreacting." "Overreacting?" I inquired. "Well, yes, Dana says she offered a remark you misread, and now you've taken extreme steps. Revoking your son's charge cards. That seems quite harsh for a basic tease among ladies. A basic tease among ladies." It was amazing how the story had changed. Now it wasn't merely harmless, but my fault for lacking humor. "Claudia," I said steadily, "do you provide your daughter endless charge cards?" "No." "But do you settle your grown daughter's lease?" "No, but that's unlike." "Do you support your daughter's getaways while you stay home solitary?" Claudia moved uneasily in her seat. "Georgia, each household manages funds differently." "Precisely. And I've resolved to manage mine differently henceforth." "But consider Dana and Ryan. They're youthful. They're constructing their future. They require backing." "They are 35 and 32, respectively. At that age, I had raised a son, labored years, and reserved for later life without parental aid." "Eras were unlike then. Eras are unlike. True. Now more chances, improved learning, greater loan access." "No cause two learned grown-ups can't sustain themselves." Claudia altered approach. "Georgia, Dana is quite distressed. She wept all night yesterday. She claims she has always viewed you as a second parent, and doesn't grasp why you're abruptly spurning her." "A second parent who is merely useful for settling expenses per her words. That was a tease. Ladies always gripe about in-laws." "It's usual. Griping privately is one matter, Claudia. Shaming someone before visitors is another." The talk went on half-hour with Claudia employing every guilt tactic available. "Remorse. Consider your son's feelings. Dread. You'll end solitary. Disgrace. What will others think?" And even subtle warnings. Dana knows social service contacts. Finally, seeing no tactic succeeded, she went direct. "Georgia, I'll be open. Dana and Ryan consider legal aid. Ways exist to deem someone unfit if showing erratic monetary acts." There it was, the true warning behind emotional tricks. If I didn't yield willingly, they would attempt seizing my monetary control by force. "Claudia," I said, rising, "I advise consulting a solid attorney before that. I just returned from mine, and he confirmed protecting funds from kin abuse shows competence, not opposite." Her face altered right away. She saw she had revealed too soon. "I didn't intend," she started, retreating. "Yes, you intended precisely," I cut in, "and now knowing your real aims, this talk ends." I escorted her to the entrance quietly. Before departing, she said, "Georgia, I hope you rethink. A household conflict aids no one. There is no conflict, Claudia. There is merely a lady who has at last learned to prize herself." After her exit, I settled in my lounge and pondered what I heard. Not only planning heightened emotional tricks, but legal steps to reclaim my funds. That night, I phoned Mr. Coleman about Claudia's warning. He calmed me, noting deeming unfit needs firm medical proof and long legal steps. Handling personal funds responsibly isn't proof of unfit. However, he advised document all, record talks if able, keep threat logs, and consider preventive mental check for competence proof. That night, for the initial time since start, I sensed slight dread, but not dread of error, dread of how far they would push to reclaim funds control. But I sensed stronger than dread, resolve. Claudia's warning kept me awake that night, but not dread. It was icy fury growing hourly. How dare they ponder deeming me unfit for safeguarding my funds? It was ultimate trick. If persuasion fails, strip legal decision rights. Next day, Saturday, I heeded Mr. Coleman's guidance. First, private clinic for full mental check. The physician, professional in 50s, heard as I detailed. Mrs. Whitlock, she said after 2 hours tests and talks, be clear. You show outstanding mental clarity. Spotting abuse patterns, setting sound limits. Safeguarding resources are competent mind signs. Actually, you're acting more logically now than when permitting abuse. She provided official report of full competence, dated sealed, my safeguard against legal fights. Home, I found Lucy in her yard. She approached fence with concerned look. Georgia, senior lady, visited yesterday inquiring about you. Wanted if you've acted oddly lately. I said you seemed happier, calmer than ever. I shared Claudia's visit and subtle warning. Lucy heard with rising outrage. Unbelievable, she cried. Deeming unfit for refusing to give funds is absurdest heard. What irks me most, I said, is they believe entitled to my funds. They view not as my property, as advance legacy. You need, Lucy said with sly grin, to exit and savor freedom. When last did something purely for want. She was correct. Years living by others' needs, demands, forgot self. Pleasure feel, 5. Day cruise departs Wednesday, Lucy went on. I planned with sibling, but she cancelled health. Join me, idea excited instantly, when last traveled for joy. Slept elsewhere, ate without cost tally, relaxed without Ryan crisis worry. I'd adore, I answered no pause. That afternoon we reserved cruise, $1, 500 each for 5 days, all covered, fraction of Ryan Dana last getaway. But this for my pleasure. Sunday morning, packing for cruise, bell rang. Ryan alone, looked awful, deep eye circles, creased attire, frantic look. Mom, he said broken tone, please, talk without Dana, without yelling, just us. I let in, kept emotional gap. Learned spotting tricks, Mom desperate, he started. Vehicle coverage due Monday, lack funds. If not renew, can't drive legally. Without vehicle, can't work. How much coverage, I asked. $250, earned last month, $3, 500, but what, Ryan? But expenses, lease, meals, services, and what else spend. Quiet moment, Mom, don't grasp, living costly. Living costly with unaffordable style, I answered. Tell one's son, how much eateries last month, don't know. Perhaps how much streaming, fitness, delivery apps, different, Mom, basic needs, streaming basic, modern world, yes, can't live isolated. Their core issue, Ryan truly thought luxuries needs, real needs another's duty. Ryan, I said steadily, 35 years. College degree, job, why can't settle $250 vehicle bill, no funds left after rest, then reduce rest. Not simple, can't slash costs so. Why not? Why? Why? He grew frustrated visibly. Have life maintain, life can't afford, but you've aided. Their bare fact, not seeking short aid, claiming perceived right. Mind, I permanent financial part, not parent occasional support. Ryan, ask something, want honest reply. Ever in decade budgeted real, lived only salary, silent, ever thought cheaper home. Silence, ever cut voluntary to avoid asking funds. Mom, unfair queries. Unfair ask 35 adult tried within means. Don't grasp pressure under. Dana expectations. Pal's live way. Can't seem poor. When consider my expectations. Financial pressure. First in talk, Ryan fully silent. Saw eyes processing never before. Mom, finally softer. Never thought didn't know felt pressured. Really, never wondered afford your style while I beans rice. Never wondered why no new attire self, but funds your crises. Tears rolled cheeks. Thought liked aiding. Thought love show. Was Ryan, but turned love duty. Turned kindness expectation. Finally, sacrifice mockery reason. Mom, Dana said was Dana said camelback straw, but glass filling years. Ryan wept quietly minutes, when spoke, tone different, mature, what fix, start settling own vehicle coverage. Ryan sat lounge nearly hour after talk, spoke little more, but saw expression changed. First years, truly pondering acts, not seeking want. When left said, Mom, find way coverage, serious expenses talk. Didn't fully trust, but least maturity start. Monday morning, packing cruise Wednesday, unexpected call. Dana, tone fully different prior days. Georgia, said calm. No tense us. Meet coffee without Ryan, drama, just us. Agreed, curiosity over reconcile hope. Met small cafe near mall. Dana arrived simpler usual, no pricey jewels designer outfits. Looked weary, humbler. Georgia started after coffees, sincere apologized last week said. Cruel, disrespectful, inappropriate fully. What changed mind? Asked direct. Honestly, diner shame, but not only. Past days, faced finances reality without support. Realized terrifying, what no clue live means, lived years as rich because financed gap income expenses. First, Dana honest finances reflection. Yesterday, continued, Ryan, I sat real budget salaries no outside. Discovered, tell, spend nearly double earn. Double Georgia, not little more, double, always covered gap. Now do drastic shifts, apartment live 1,200 month, combined salaries pay 800 most must move Ryan board. Resisted first, saw numbers paper, no choice. Also cancel memberships, services, change socialize fully. Dana sipped coffee. George, ask something honest please. When start resent dependence financial, question direct surprised. Think grew gradual, crystallized realized not only expected aid, granted. When, stopped asking funds, started using. Extra cards normal, savings automatic crisis fund. Dana nodded shame look. Right, point stopped seeing person aiding, started as resource. Exactly, way rebuild bond, asked Dana, honest fully, prior bond gone, based unsustainable I gave you took. Want new, different bases fully, what bases, mutual honor, independence financial your side, bond value not economic use? Dana silent long, mean never aid again, mean if need real aid genuine crisis after proved live responsible own, consider. But aid, not ongoing grant, how long prove independence, not deadline test Dana, life change, maintain balanced budget, live means, build crisis savings own, demonstrated maturity, financial real. Vacations, upscale eateries, earn own work, most do. Dana looked overwhelmed truly. Georgia, unsure no lave that. Time learn, education, jobs, skills. Lacked only independence motive. If fail, fail responsible adults. Learn mistakes. Least fail own decisions masters, not depend another solve. Finished coffee's thoughtful quiet. Rising leave, Dana said, Georgia, no not fix all, want no learned key this week. What, adult not just age adult, taking adult duty, we've played adults you carried real duties, maturest reflection ever Dana. That night, finished cruise packing, sensed odd peace, not lost relatives, left toxic pattern hurt all. If Ryan Dana want change true, prove acts, not terms. Tuesday, text Ryan, Mom, personal loan coverage vehicle. Found cheaper apartment, move next month, wanted no, not much, something. Small independence step needed desperate. That night, slept sound, knowing next day start first true personal journey decades. Cruise revelation. 5 days wake want, eat crave, activities pleasure bring. Lucy perfect companion travel, independent, enjoyable, free drama relatives. Ship met age women similar tales. One dinner woman Elaine shared 3 grown offspring drained retirement before enough said. Another Isabel found son used card gamble online. Surprised most, Isabel said sunset deck watch, realized not alone. Thought unique family issue. Turns generation parents no say no grown offspring. Home Sunday sensed renewed. 5 days no call demand funds, no anxiety financial, no burden ongoing solve others' issues, like recall self before family bank. Several machine messages, surprise, none desperate demand. Ryan called twice check arrived safe trip. Dana short message, hope cruise enjoyed, love here experience time. Monday morning, Lucy visit coffee pastries, trip details here. Chatted patio, saw Ryan vehicle park driveway. Time, not exit immediate door head, sat vehicle minutes. Finally Belle, expression different, nervous, mature somehow. Mom said open, no back trip, talk moment. Asked in, Lucy excuse discreet home. Mom wanted share week done, Ryan started. Dana I moved smaller apartment. Pay $400 less lease monthly. Feel change, honestly, tough first. Apartment smaller, less fancy area. Few days, realized key. What? Sleep peaceful, no pay all own funds. No ongoing anxiety, cover next expenses how. First Ryan financial anxiety, speak own view. Never thought he stressed unsustainable style too. Also canceled pricey fitness, signed basic 5th price, continued. Dana part-time weekends extra income found. Dana working more. Yes, idea hers. Wants contribute active finances, not manage elsewhere funds. Surprised Dana initiative. Mom also apologize formal, not just 2 weeks back all years. Never realized treated like cash machine, not mother. What realized first real budget sat, realized no clue live cost real. Entire adult life, lived beyond means you covered gap. Ryan paused direct eyes look. Mom, want no last days first years truly adult feel. Own decisions make, own issues solve, own results responsible. Feel that terrifying, liberating also, didn't know weight carried rid till, wait no deep, not true independent. Wait no lived financial false. Wait no style depended mother kindness exploit. Terms struck deep. Years thought only suffering dynamic. Turned Ryan carried guilt anxiety too. Mom, no right ask anything after all. Something like ask. Tell, think ever normal bond. Bond son visits love, not need. Question moved implied understood difference. Ryan bond start today want. Always wanted son visits cares, not useful. So, like Dana, I lunch Sunday. Bring food, cook, time spend together, adore that. After Ryan left, sat lounge reflect, all changed 2 weeks. Lost role relatives monetary savior, gained valuable more self-respect genuine son bond possibility. That night, phoned Mr. Coleman modify will again ask. After Ryan talk, consider different way, not punish permanent, create will rewards maturity time shown. Miss Whitlock, attorney said, tiered will behavior base think. Exactly. If Ryan real independence financial 2 years straight, larger share receive could. Continues pattern 5 years, larger another, but old habits back fall, original plan revert, intelligent structure. Long-term growth personal motivates, hung phone, realized first year's future plan, hope not fear-based. Hope son learned grown true, hope bond heal could, hope final year's dignity respect lived, went patio stars look. Distance, fountain sound heard, garden installed last year. Small luxury allowed self years doubting deserve spend self. Now new answer, always deserved self-treat generosity same others shown. Took 68 years lesson learn, finally learned never forget again. If enjoyed story my, support send super thanks write more stories like. Thanks advance lot, what you? What do person choose this? Love hear thoughts really. Drop comments. Always curious think what. Oh, let no story heard where. Want more life stories like video, subscribe channel my. Many more waiting. Big hugs, see next